one of the biggest things I've learned in starting a company is you can't start a company alone. So like, I think that surgeons go through life, or doctors. I remember the motto in the clinic that I was at was, at the end, you're always alone. And it's like, surgeons, you're just lonely people. It's like, that's the culture that you have. The culture in a tech company is everyone works on everything. Everyone helps each other out. And for myself, it's like the only way that I've learned is calling up my friends who have companies and saying, what do I do? And it's like, I think not being shy about that you don't know something is the most important thing. So I was like, how do I hire an engineering team? Who should I even hire? What's an engineering manager? What's an IC? Like, how should I grow the next person? What kind of person am I looking for? How do I build out a sales playbook? What book should I read? It's like really just asking a million questions to the right people.
We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams. Come along, come on.
I'm Kevin Jurovich. Welcome to Founder Uncovered, the show about those brave enough to dream big and bold enough to swim away from the safety of the shore. Here, we dive into the origin moments before the noise, before the spotlight, back when it was just a vision, a hunch, and a founder crazy enough to chase it. For all the dreamers listening, this is where your story begins. Ashley did what so few people ever do. She became a surgeon. After years of training, discipline, commitment to a path she had imagined herself at since childhood. But once she was inside the system, she began to see a different problem up close. Doctors were spending way too much time navigating all the tools, some of the outdated workflows, operational friction that pulled them away from the thing that mattered most, which was patient care. That frustration firsthand became the foundation for Rue Four, the company Ashley now co-leads with her sister. Love that. In this conversation, Ashley talks about what it looks like to walk away from that hard-won identity, start from scratch as a founder, sell software door to door in New York in the wintertime, and build conviction one customer at a time. It's a conversation about perseverance, humility, and the unique perspective that comes from having lived the problem before trying to solve it. Before we jump in, a quick thank you to our sponsor, Perkins Coie. This episode is brought to you by Perkins Coie. Building a company means making high-stakes decisions early, often, and under pressure. Perkins Coie advises founders and growth stage companies through the moments that matter most, from formation and fundraising all the way through scaling and beyond. We're grateful for their support of VC and Founder Uncovered. Now, here's my conversation with Ashley. It's definitely not every day that I interview a doctor, like let alone a surgeon, that's became a founder. And like, as I was thinking about this, I always think like, what's a good first question? I was like, how insane is this that somebody became a surgeon and then decided to become a founder? Like, these are two of the most high stakes professions that anybody can choose. And I'm like, how does somebody fall into this? Like, how does somebody decide to do this?
I feel like I think about this a lot. Both of these professions, I feel like are people who decide they like high amounts of suffering. If you like have gone through residency, you go through medical school, and then you decide to start a company, it's kind of like the same thing. It is the ability, I think, to like get up every single day, actually go and work nonstop. And it kind of feels like the exact same thing. You're just nonstop, you're barely sleeping, and you're working all the time. But that is like an analogy, I think, that is very close to residency and actually like building the company. It's having done both of those.
Yeah. I have a lot of empathy for you. Like, your road was way harder than mine. I was in finance prior to starting a company. And I basically spent 5 years building this book of business. And then eventually I had to sell that to start a company. But like, becoming a doctor and then a surgeon, like, that is years. Like, not only is that like a financial commitment, that's your life. That's you. That's your identity. Like, how was that decision to eventually like move away from this and be like, you know what? Or was there an aha moment along the way that you said, you know what? I'm going to start a company. I'm going to take off this gown and I'm going to go sell stuff door to door?
I think Like the thing that kind of just was throughout the whole thing, I wanted to be a doctor since I was like 8 years old. My mom, the whole side of the family, they're all pediatric surgeons. They're all prenatal surgeons. It was like, that was the only thing I wanted to do growing up. So I'd give everyone like Tic Tacs and tell them I was curing them with like my pills. And so there was never really like another option for me. I think it was like a very clear path that no matter what, I wanted to be a doctor, and specifically like I wanted to be a surgeon. And so I think I got to the point of where I had been like, practicing for a while. I was doing reconstructive hand and burn surgery, and it was incredible. But like, I think one of the biggest things in the clinic and in practice was the amount of time that I spent on like just doing things that were not made for doctors. So whether it's like paperwork or like talking to people, just a bunch of fragmented systems, like anything from the way that you'd see, patient information, or the way that you're actually charting something on like a piece of paper. And so I felt like every time I was doing that, there had to be like a better way. And I've always been somebody that is very interested in like tools and like new things. I love like processes. I love organization. I'm like a pretty type A person. So like, I always felt like what I was doing could be a lot more efficient. That was like the first thing that showed me was like, most of the people I knew weren't in medicine. And so whether it was like my co-founder now or just a lot of my friends, I was seeing what they were doing and the tools they were using. And it felt very archaic, very backwards, that we didn't have that in the hospital or the clinics that I was working at. I think that was the first thing that was like, it was less of an aha moment. It was more of a like, what can I build to alleviate my pain? And then seeing that it helped me, how can I give this to other people? And then that just kind of catapulted into what we have today. And like, I think the biggest thing was we had very early on, it was like, I guess I can get a little bit into like the origin story, and I'll let you ask your questions. But so I was struggling with a couple of things at the clinic, and like I ended up building this, like it was just like a no-code app. It was something that helped me organize some of the things that I had, and it was like an Excel spreadsheet, but it just looked cool, and it was like helped me organize things. And that was like the initial product, like that was the MVP that I started like giving to people. And that's kind of like what turned into what do we have today. But it was less so of a like, I'm going to go out and build this company, and more so I think that I can have a bigger impact and a bigger change in scaling Rue Four, just building a software, than I can just with like one patient.
Wow. And you don't know this, but I actually just got out of surgery. I had an Achilles tendon tear. Thank God for surgeons, because I just started to walk again. And yeah, incredible. Like as you go through this though, like it's one thing you start passing out this tool and it's like helpful. It's one thing to do this. It's a whole nother thing to be like you literally said, since you were 5 years old, you wanted to be this thing, and like you became it. And it's not just a regular thing that you became, right? This is like the 0.01% of the profession. At some point, as you're passing out this tool, when was it like, oh my gosh, I'm actually going to go do this other thing, this business, and maybe leave all of this hard work and identity behind? Because that's very, very scary for people to do. Yeah.
I think like the biggest trigger for me was I wasn't sure whether or not people would actually want like what I was building. I know it was solving my own problem and, some of my colleagues' problems, but I think the biggest thing was, will like a mass scale of people actually like want this? Am I making a big enough of an impact in what we're doing? And very early on, I was selling the software door to door. So like I was here in New York. That's kind of how I was getting distribution. I was knocking on other, doctors' doors.
I just gotta say, so like I used to sell medical devices.
I saw that.
This was like my first job out of college, talking to a surgeon. A surgeon is like the rock star in the room, right? And so that was you. Going from that to selling stuff door to door, was that like a crazy humbling process?
It was. I got kicked out of a lot of doctors' offices. People don't know who you are. You're just coming by and you're selling them some software. They don't have any time. They're super busy. And it's really hard, I think, early on to actually get like your message across of what it is that you're doing. And you're so early, you barely know it yourself. So you're going to someone, you're being like, hey, I can help you. And they don't really want to give you the time of day. So I think, as they knew who I was and like building something for the industry, they're like, you know what, I'll listen to you. But there was countless times where I was like, it was like -5 degrees. I was wearing like my jacket walking up and down Fifth Avenue, and like Fifth Avenue in New York is like Plastics Avenue. So you'd have all these like clinics that I could go to, and I would just knock on their doors, walk inside and be like, hey, I'm building a tool that's going to save you some time. Do you think that your surgeon has some time to chat? I'd say 9 out of 10 times I got kicked out, and they would say, you know what, he's not here, he's in surgery, we can't really help you. And I'd be like, okay, thank you. You can't really say much else to that, right? I started like paying them like lunch and learns to like have them actually pay attention to me so I could buy some other time. I would even go like and like try and book like patient appointments, like anything to do to like get in front of them, because, you know, just calling or emailing someone, like it doesn't work. And also, yeah.
You get bombarded by everything, right? Like people like me that I was in orthopedic sales. So it was like all these little implants. I was selling, Stryker was selling, Johnson & Johnson was selling. Like, did you drop, hey, I'm also a surgeon? And then if you did they believe you?
I did once. They actually said like, this might be interesting for us. And then they were like, well, you know, we haven't heard much about you. And I'd be like, well, it's because I started the company and, you know, my background is as a surgeon. And then I think that was the first one I walked into. It was kind of a random plastic surgery office in the Upper East Side, and I pitched the surgeon there on the idea and on the product, and he like had me in his office, and I kind of walked him through it, and he became one of our first angel investors. And so he ended up saying, you know what, like, I love this. First he tried to hire me, and then he was like, okay, I get it. You're not leaving this company. And I was still working in clinic at the time. So he's like, you know what? I want to like, I believe in this, and I want to put some money. He gave us $50,000. And like, I think that was the first thing that showed me it's not just me, but like there's somebody else that believes in what we're doing. That's a third party. It's not my co-founder. It's not myself, not my family. It's like actually someone who's going to give us some money for what we're doing. And I think for like any founder, the first time you find a paying customer or someone like who believes in what you're doing, that was like enough for me to say like, okay, I think I'm going to leave what I'm doing. And I ended up 2 months later, started the company in September. In December, I left medicine and just decided to go all in on the company, because I think that was like one of the bigger things that actually showed me people are willing to pay for something that barely exists. And given at the time I was selling software out of like a WeWork on 18th Street, that was like the first time that I really felt like, you know, this is something that I think that I really want to do.
Yeah, I love that story. I've started a couple companies, and I would say the latest one that I've started was the only successful one. That signal, because I had the same exact thing, that signal when you're sharing what you're doing with a customer, right? And then they purchase it, and then they say, hey, are you raising money for this? Like, I want to invest. If you can get this signal, and our first check, or one of the first checks, was from Uber's first investor, and it was the same thing. We onboarded him as an expert. And then at the very end of the call, he's like, are you guys raising money for this thing? He ended up, you know, sending $50K. And the more touch points you get like this, I always talk about like, how do you build conviction for your thing? When you don't, you know, it solves a problem for you, but is there other people out there that give a damn? Yeah. And the more touch points and data points you have like this, it just builds that conviction that, you know what, like maybe there is something here. Like maybe this is bigger than just a me thing. So that's a beautiful story. Okay. So then you get that check. Did you go out to dinner when you got that $50K? Because that's a nice first angel check. That's pretty good size.
You know, I think back in the day it was really tough. I was like doing a bunch of things at the time. That's one thing. I need to learn to celebrate a little bit more. But like I was already like so focused and working so hard. I was like, okay, this is and given like I was kind of like broke at the time. So I was like, okay, we have this check. We're going to be able to like move forward. I can like, you know, do a couple of, I mean, the first thing I did is called my co-founder, and like, she knew that this was like kind of going on. And I was like, okay, we like have this now. And I think we have enough to like fully focus on this. And so that was like the big thing for us, just knowing that like we could actually hire a couple of people to like help us build out the software and the MVP, given like we both don't have technical backgrounds. So it was like a very quick, very excited thing. But I also know the amount of, first of all, how much money it takes and the amount of work it takes to actually build something like this. So it felt like a little hooray, and then like quickly get back to work. So yeah, very excited that I think it showed me for the most part, more than the money. It was like, this is something that, I'm really like, I want to build and that I want to see through, and that there's enough conviction behind it that if I'm going to leave a medical career and I'm going to leave what I wanted to do my whole life to go build out this company, it needs to be worth it. And I think that's been like the red line between the people that we hired coming, like getting the company together, our investors, anything, it's like they need to see enough conviction and I need to see enough conviction in what we're doing to be able to like grow this and make it bigger than myself. Cause like, just cause I know something and sometimes I'm not the best storyteller, doesn't mean that everyone else does.
I think this is actually speaking of storytelling, because I think like on a founding team, you want to have a great storyteller. I was doing a little recon. We talked about your co-founder. Is it true that your co-founder is actually your sister?
Jess is my sister. Yes. Jessica is my sister and my co-founder.
Amazing. And she came from CNN and so I'm sure she told like all kinds of stories, like being in front of the camera with a microphone, right? Is she the kind of the storyteller of the two?
Jessica's definitely the storyteller of the two. We were very different as people. Jessica's background was as a journalist. She was the first one to live in New York. She was living here in Spring Street, so we're in Soho right now. And I remember coming to visit her in like 2017 in the middle of my boards, and she would show me the CNN office, and we'd kind of walk around, show me New York, and we were both like, this is where we kind of want to come back to, and this is what we want to do. And we both took very different paths, but she was always kind of in front of the camera, telling the stories, making them bigger than life. A lot of, about startups. I think she was the one that really gave that push and like the startup bug of what it is that we can do. And so she ended up working at a data privacy company, trying to start her own thing in healthcare. And I always said, I remember I was like, I'll never leave being a doctor. It just didn't feel like that was like what I should do, especially because like I saw so many other companies that were building in the healthcare space, but I didn't feel like, they were making big enough of an impact. It was like a lot of companies just doing the same thing. I feel like it had to be something really special. And also starting it with Jessica and starting it with my sister has been very different, right? You have like a built-in partner, someone you trust 100%. And yes, Jessica is very much the storyteller. She actually started a podcast. That was how we first started. Right with the company, we were like, this is how we're going to, get distribution. It's how we got our second angel investor. And so we were like, just how do we tell the story of what we're doing and how do we distribute this to other people? Because that's what she enjoys doing. But now she's my co-founder of the company.
Do you love her more than when you started this with her, or does she get on your nerves more, or how's that relationship going?
So Jess and I lived together for a while. That was enough. It was like,
do you not want to answer this question?
No, I mean, when we lived together, it was like, we're living together, we're working together. We have a lot of mutual friends. So it was like, we just were nonstop 24/7 together. And like growing up, we moved around a lot. So, it was always just Jessica and I. So like we moved to Germany, we were in California, we were in Mexico, we were in Spain. And like every time we moved and went to a new school, we became very close because it was just always like her and I. And so I think going from that into like actually starting a company together, the biggest thing has just been, it's been really awesome to work together, but it's also somebody that no matter, I think like what the fights or disagreements or what's kind of going on, you always know that what they want is like for the company and for you. And so it's like building not just like family. I feel like building a company that's just family is like sometimes you can like let things go. But just building two people who really like are on the same page about what they're doing. So there's definitely interesting dynamics. I would say some of our people didn't even know we were siblings when we started the company. But we look alike as well. We're not too far apart. So it always comes out.
What's one thing, because I'm sure her name is Jessica.
Yeah.
She's going to listen to this. What's one thing that you appreciate about her? Not just being your sister, but like one thing that since you guys have been co-founders, you're like, I love that about her. Like, I love that attribute about her as a person and as a co-founder. What's one thing?
I think that Jessica's a little bit more of like a visionary and a dreamer and like makes us think bigger than life. I think that's always one of the most important things to have because starting a company is really tough. And so, like every day you're really deep in it and like you get lost in the detail and you're focusing on everything that's going wrong and, people are quitting and you're firing people and the software is crashing and you're launching to new clinics. It's like always something's going on. And then having kind of that zoom out perspective, versus like my zoom in is something that's important to have as a balance. I think so. Like really appreciate that when, I'm looking at the bigger pictures of things, it really like balances that out. You can really just get lost in like the day to day. So it goes beyond, I think just someone being like a sister or in the company, but it's really like, also I can call her about anything and I know it's like 100% safe. So
after 5, do you keep it like not business or is it just always business now?
If you ask her, she tells you it always business. It is not true. No.
Let's just talk about personal things.
No, we do have our offs where we're just like, you know what, let's go we have some founder dinners. We just have like our normal dinners. We travel a lot together. We just do a lot. So I think a lot of our conversations revolve around the company just because it's, you know, what we do so much. But even in the office, it's like, you know, we'll steal away sometimes to like talk about other stuff while we're building the company together. But it's you know, I think a very interesting dynamic if you can find someone that is so different to you that you don't really work on anything together because you're very focused on like two different kinds of things, yet you come together to build something. I think it just becomes difficult when like two people are working on the same thing, but Jessica and I are so fundamentally different as people in the way we think about problems. It's been cool seeing her perspective and the way that she approaches things versus how I do.
That's beautiful. Have you, as you go out and raise money, right? You guys are venture back now. Have you ran into any investors like balking at that idea? I hear less and less about siblings, but I know when it comes to like husband and wife founders, sometimes people look at this as like not a red flag, but it's an additional risk.
Yeah.
Did you sense this in any of these investor conversations, or are they looking at this as more of a positive?
I think times have like changed. I think people now look at like sibling relationships as more of a positive, but I don't think that we did have some investors definitely that were like, you guys are siblings, you know, what does this mean for the company? Is this too close? And like you said, I've heard a lot about like people who are actually married. I think for us specifically, that wasn't that big of a deal. It was something that was seen a little bit more as positive, but to be honest, like it's not something that I mentioned very early on. I mentioned it way down the line. So I'm like, already when people know what the company does, they've met me, they've, you know, gone like 20 steps in. I'm like, oh, by the way, my co-founder is my sister. And so I don't know if that was part of it.
That's funny. I think there's more pros than cons. It's like you've lived with this person. You've been through so many things. You talked about all the cities you already moved to and lived with. Like I think like people often over-index early on when it comes to a founder. It's like, oh, for me, I'm a storyteller. I need to partner and have a co-founder that's just a CTO. And I think that does matter. But I always like to say, I think the trust is the number one important thing with a co-founder. And it's literally like, do I want to go grab a meal with this person at the end of the day? Do I want to talk to them? Do I enjoy their perspective? Like all of these things are maybe even more important than the fact that they can code and I can't.
Yeah. And I think it's like, can this person inspire me? Are they there for the long run? Can I spend 24/7 with this person? And as a sibling, I don't think you can with anyone. I only have one sister, but I know that, you know, not everyone would want to found a company with their siblings. So sometimes they're like, you know, I amend you or I commend you for it. And, you know, if it was me, I wish I could. And some people are like, I would never in a million years. So there's a fine line also between like what is business and what is not business. But I think being able to separate those two is really helpful in the company and just both be able to focus on like different things. I mean, I also feel like a lot of companies, there's some people that'll come to her with like problems, or there's some, you know, customers or investors who will want to speak to her because she sees it in a different way. And then there's some people who come to me because of what I think and how I'm going to do that. So I think it's like a yin and a yang that goes very well together, versus like two similar personalities. You wouldn't really know where to go. So I think that's something that has helped us like grow as a team.
Do you ever sit back and just think it's kind of crazy, like what Ashley's life was like 2 years ago and like the things that you're doing? And now all of a sudden we get into 2026 and we're thinking about our goals and it's like, holy cow, like my life is completely different.
100%. I was living in Germany for a really long time. So I was in Munich. I moved to New York about like 2 years ago. And so I'm originally from California, but I just moved around a lot and ended up coming back here 2 years ago. And that already was like a big move, but it was like the move happened at the same time, starting the company, leaving medicine, and like leaving medicine is like leaving your personality. You build like yourself up to be a doctor and then it's gone. And then you have like a small crisis of like, what am I doing? So it was like, I think so much change in a little amount of time. Was really cool to see. But like when I moved to New York, I was living at like my friends' couches like the whole time because it was like I couldn't get an apartment and I was like moving around and it's like so much chaos. And I think like ask me 2 years ago, never. I would have never thought that I would be like, you know, doing this, living on people's couches, launching out products, knocking on people's doors. Now I feel like I can do a lot more than I would have done then. And also just the amount that you kind of learn every single day. It was like, I knew that I was trying to solve how we can help doctors save time. But to the amount of how we solve it now, and now we like bring together not just doctors, but finance, ops teams. We build a bridge, like we're building a communication tool between these systems. Now I've like understood what I was missing before, which is I've understood the medical language, but now I learned the financial language, the operational language, the VC language. It's like just building that communication tool is, I think, something that has been so valuable, because I went from just knowing like what, a surgery is, what is, how do I stitch someone together? How do I mend a broken bone? To like, how do we actually provide like financial analysis? How do we build an AI tool for, forecasting inventory? How do we bridge all the problems that I saw before through a tool that just breeds communication and like a single front door for people? So it was like, I think it's been like from the founding journey, just across like the product journey. It's been really exciting to go back and really understand what the problems are and how we're like solving for them. I love it.
That was beautiful. Speaking of problems, what's like one massive mistake that you've made on this short journey when you're like looking back? Because at the end of the day, for any founder out there, like you launch something, usually like the very, very first version of your product, it doesn't work very well. And the first time you're a CEO of a company or a founder, it's like the amount of mistakes that I've made over the past 8 years, I'll take my stack against anybody's stack. Is there one sort of mistake looking back, you're like, oh, I almost thought that was the end? Or have you been lucky to avoid this so far?
No, I think that we've definitely I think mistakes are always part of it. I always try to do mistakes once and like learn from them. I think that like any sort of mistake is the most important thing, because you always learn from everything that happens, as long as it's not, of course, going to crash the company. I think hiring has been one of the biggest things. It's like really knowing to hire the right people. Early on, you just kind of like want to hire because you're growing the company. Looking back, there might have been like decisions that I made that might have not like brought on the same people. Same thing when you like approach the product or what we were building. We took a certain perspective as to like how we thought it was going to go into the market. And like, I think that this is the idea. And we realized we were having so much friction to grow. It was like we were approaching it from the wrong side. And like, I think that was a mistake very early on, that we realized it's like we can keep doing what we're doing, but I think I'm going to bang my head against the wall a million times. So it's like, let's try and learn from what we did and like solve it from a different way. But I honestly think building a company is just like making mistakes every day and learning from them. There's so many that they compile, and you just try to not make it the one that's going to like, turn the lights off.
That's a fact, which is why people say this all the time, but it's like, pick a business that you truly actually have passion for, because there's going to be mistakes. There's going to be long days. Like, think about for Ashley, what she just said. Imagine Ashley at a dinner party being like, hey, what do you do? She gets to tell everyone, I'm a surgeon, right? Like, what an awesome thing to tell somebody. When she starts a company, it's completely different, right? And it's like, now you're almost like the low person on the totem pole. Most people aren't willing to be seen as beginners again. And like, when I hear you say this story, like, I'm very proud of you, because I've kind of gone through that metamorphosis a couple times. It's not easy to do it. And then having the courage to like start something brand new and say, you know what, I'm going to bet on myself. I don't care about all the schooling and the identity and everything that I've built up to this point. I'm going to literally like start from scratch and start again. So that's pretty cool. If we think about like in 2026, I don't know if you already did your company goals. I did some personal goals. I did some company goals. I'm a big goal setter person. What do you feel like is the mission or like the goals of the company this year? What are you most excited about accomplishing? And what does 2026 look like?
I mean, that's a really good question. I think it's something that we like think about all the time. And being so early, it's kind of crazy, because it's like so many things can change with just like one partnership, or you change one thing or you hire one person. It's like, I think when you grow to like, Series B and C, it's like you've kind of done a lot of things. And we always think really big, the company. I think we always have a huge vision, and it's just to like make processes work for, all medical practices, all doctors, all their people and their teams. So it's just taking on the entire medical industry. And it's like, it's so hard to, look at it and be like, okay, that's not our focus. We actually really just care about getting to our next raise and really just care about getting on our next customer. So it's like, you have to look at both sides of this because we want to dream so big about where we're going and what we're doing.
Shout out Jessica for the big dreams.
For the big dreams and the big visions. And I think that for 2026, it's really a big thing for us has just been like getting the best team together. And so that's been like my core focus right now. We've been focusing a lot just on like growth. We, onboarded hundreds of clinics. We're onboarding hundreds more. Just having the capacity to like build out a really strong engineering team. I think that is, we're mostly engineers. By we, not me. Our team is mostly engineers. So it's like everything that we do, we focus on building out an incredible engineering team and product. And the biggest motivator behind that is because when I was in the clinic, all the tools that I had were not great. You're coming into a very legacy industry. And I think like today you see a lot of people working in healthcare. It was never the case. No one really cared. It's like an overlooked industry. And so doctors always had to go with like whatever it is that we had, which is mostly Excel spreadsheets. And now people have taken like an interest and like, especially with like AI for building in healthcare. And I think that like for me, the biggest thing is building like a consumer grade or like building something that is very easy to use for an industry that never had it. Is like really rewarding when I like have a doctor get on board and say like, this is awesome, or you've changed my life. Like that's enough goals for me for 2026 to like, we made it. It's really like the customer feedback, what it is that they tell us and how they want to work with us, which is doctors and surgeons are super opinionated. They don't have a lot of time. If you're wasting 1 second from them, you'll hear from it. So like they'll get on a call and be like, this took me 1 second too long. But it's like cool because you get direct user feedback and, it's not just, you learn very quickly. The learning curve's very steep.
Your customer, I don't want to say that they're finicky, but I don't know the adjective to use for them. They would not be the easiest of customers, I would assume. Is that true?
They're definitely not.
Or maybe you don't want to say that out loud, but
I can say it because I was one of them. We're not easy people to please. I think doctors are perfectionists, especially surgeons. You a lot of time have people come in, and it's funny that they're so opinionated about software today. When you look at the software and the tools that they're using, you're coming from a sticky note. So like anything besides a sticky note is great, but I think that they're used to being so quick in the surgical field that that's exactly what they want as a tool. And I think they see us as an early stage company that we can solve their problems. And so they're so opinionated and give us so much feedback because like we actually see these people being able to like help what we do. So it's not just like, and I think that's the biggest thing. Like I don't come in and say, hey, we build, procurement orchestration. We're not just a layer that gives communication. Like we can actually help what it is that you're doing today to help you save time and just focus on your patients. And so I think that for them is a lot bigger. And they want to work with us versus saying like, here's just a software and this is what we do.
I can tell when I talk to somebody when like they're living out their passion, and I totally see this with you. So I know you're going to continue to be successful. When you think back on your founder journey and even your journey, prior as a surgeon, what sort of one single attribute would you say, why I was able to accomplish these things is because of X? What do you attribute that to?
I don't know if it's like one single thing. I think for me, it's just perseverance. It's like, no matter what, I am the person that like gets up in the morning, and just comes into the office or works from home. I work 7 days a week. It's like, I'm always work. And like you said, it's my passion. So it doesn't feel like work. So anything that I do, I'm thinking about already, like the next thing that I'm going to do. And just not working on it when I feel like it. Cause a lot of times you don't feel like it. You're really tired. Things are going, poor, whether it's you just lost a huge contract or somebody told you no, or you didn't get like the person that you wanted. Just every day you get like new information and you have to filter a lot of it out. But I think, just saying like, okay, if I stick this out long enough, maybe the next good thing is going to come, and then that actually happens. Like that's enough to like get you to the next thing. So I think perseverance, and that's probably the most important thing, just to keep going. If you actually really care about what you're doing.
I concur. I call this the time in the desert. It's like we're all in the desert for so long in the beginning, and the ones that make it, it's not that they didn't have to be in the desert where it sucked and things weren't working. They just had to stay in it long enough and have enough perseverance to eventually find their way out, right? And In closing, what is one or two? I don't know. Are you an old school paperback, or are you an Audible person, or do you not read books at all because you're too busy?
I do. I do. I read a lot of sales books. Actually, like your typical sort. I also read a lot of just like negotiator books. I do read a lot of books. I think that
What are like two or three recommendations of like, oh, these are must reads?
I have like some old school sales books that I was reading. They are.
Like
I also
Dale
give them to
Carnegie guys?
I also give them to our sales teams. The complex sales cycle. I think it's called Hope is Not a Strategy. And one of my friends gave it to me. He has his own company. And like one of the biggest things I've learned in starting a company is you can't start a company alone. So like, I think that surgeons go through life, or doctors. I remember the motto in the clinic that I was at was, at the end, you're always alone. And it's like, surgeons, you're just lonely people. It's like, that's the culture that you have. The culture in a tech company is everyone works on everything. Everyone helps each other out. And for myself, it's like the only way that I've learned is calling up my friends who have companies and saying, what do I do? And it's like, I think not being shy about that you don't know something is the most important thing. So I was like, how do I hire an engineering team? Who should I even hire? What's an engineering manager? What's an IC? Like, how should I grow the next person? What kind of person am I looking for? How do I build out a sales playbook? What book should I read? It's like really just asking a million questions to the right people. And I think, yeah, had it not been like for my friends and, for my co-founder who can actually answer these things, and even our investors, it's like, you don't learn them on your own. It's like, always find somebody that's, I guess, really like a specialist in what they do, and then kind of get this information together. That's been, I think, the most important thing. Even over talking to customers and, reading books and doing anything, it's like, talk to people who've done it before and learn from them. And so it's like, it's always a learning game.
That sounded like a Hubble commercial, literally. My company. That was beautiful. It's true.
I saw it. Yeah. It's really talking to people. I'll call up my friend Alex and be like, hey, I'm about to do this contract. I think it's going wrong. What would you do? And he's like, back in the day, I did this. I'm like, okay, awesome. I'm like, Felix, I don't know what to do. I'm over here. I'll be like, Tony, I'm fundraising. I'm about to have this term sheet. Where should I go? And it's like having those people in your corner, who have been through it before. It's like, I think it's 10x anything that I could have done by myself. Because at the end of the day, you're only as smart as like what you know. And so the ability to like actually just ask people, and like I will cold LinkedIn outreach to anyone that I think that like will give me some sort of insight, just to learn about what they have to say. So
you have to be humble enough though to approach these people. And I think a lot of people feel, especially in our industry as founders, which I think is the reason why imposter syndrome is so high. We all feel like we have to have it all figured out. We're supposed to be the smartest person in the room. The reality is, to anybody listening, any founder out there, almost no founders I've ever talked to have it all figured out.
Yeah.
The ones that can be humble enough to ask questions, people want to help. Whether it's friends, whether it's investors, whether it's other founders, whether it's introductions, whether it's advice. Anybody who's started a company, they want to help. Someone who is either starting that similar thing or reminds them of them 10 years ago. People want to help. But it takes that mindset that you have, right? It takes that mindset to say, hey, I don't have it all figured out. Here's what I'm trying to do. How do I do it, right? And they'll be the first people to step in. But kudos for you for taking that first step, because that's the important part.
I think people just think that like people are going to ignore me. And I think it happens a lot. I remember when I was trying to hire an engineering team, like we had an outsourced one, and like I reached out to like the former CTO of Uber, and I was like, hey, cold LinkedIn him and was just like, I don't really know who I should hire. Do you have like 10 minutes to hop on and just give me some advice? Like, who am I looking for? And he's like, I'm super busy. He got back to me and he's like, you know what? Let's hop on.
CTO of Uber? You just cold LinkedIn?
I just cold LinkedIn him, and I just said, we just raised our round from KP, and I was like, hey, I need to grow the Eng team. I think a lot of people think it's like, it's something I heard while we were fundraising. It's like, this person's not going to be able to grow the kind of team that she needs to build the product that she wants. People just don't have that technical background. And so like, I heard that a lot. It was, these people coming in, if you have a great CTO or if you have someone who's in the field, it's like, I think our investors took a huge bet on me and on the company that like, I knew the problem well enough because I come from the industry. It was definitely not because of our technical chops. And so like, when I reached out to Duan, I was like, and don't exactly know who's my, like, who do I reach out to? Where do I start? And he's like, hey, here's a couple people in New York. I think that's who you should talk to. And it's like, one of them ended up leading our team. And they're like Uber, DoorDash people. It's like, you know, those kind of things. It's always how we've like grown as a company. It was just asking for help. And you know, I think being a surgeon humbles you, because every time you go into a surgery, you have like someone's life in your hand. And so you can never go in there and be too cocky and be like, you know, I know what I'm doing, because at any second something can happen, and you're not just losing a sales or a deal, or, you know, you're not having an unhappy customer. It's like somebody's, you know, the consequences are a lot bigger. So it's like, I think imposter syndrome in the clinic is one of the biggest things. You never grow out of it. And so it keeps you very humble, and you're kind of always learning with what's happening. But yeah.
Ashley, I'm excited to see you continue to rise and watch the company. And I know just in talking to you, you have a bunch of superpowers as a founder. You're smart, you work hard, you have grit, you're humble. And you kind of know what you know, and you're okay to admit the things that you don't know, right? And I think like that is a superpower in and of itself. And so, yeah, thanks for coming on. I'm excited to watch the company grow and just see the impact that you and the company continue to have.
I'm super excited. I really appreciate you for having me on. I love what you guys are doing, and all of these kind of conversations. It's, you know, Anthony was on there. It's I think, yeah, how people learn. And so I love listening to it. What he did, it was like the thing that I was like, okay, Matt, I want to be on this. I want to talk to. And I think stories are always interesting, but it's like really learning that other people were kind of there and in that same place. Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
How did you get into medical device sales?
So this is a good question. We're going to end with you asking me a question. I love this. So I was playing football, actually. So I was in the NFL for 3 years.
Mm-hmm, I hear that.
Prior to the NFL, I didn't grow up poor, but I didn't grow up rich. And when I was playing in the NFL, it was like the first time I actually got like good money. And so when that stopped and I realized like, oh, there's this other life that I really wasn't around a ton growing up, I was like, I want to maintain that. Like, I want to be able to have that sort of same lifestyle. And I think like any typical 23, 24-year-old kid, you're just like, I want to make money, right? And so this idea of medical device, you could get in it. It's sales. I'm good in sales. I'm good at talking to people. It's orthopedics. So like all of these doctors usually are sports fans. They're doing sports surgeries. It felt like a natural progression. And then for most people out there, like after you graduate college and you think you want to do something, once you actually do it for a year or two, then that's usually when you find out. So I was in the OR every day for a year, and I just realized, I was like, you know, I don't really want to be wearing these scrubs. I don't want to be like driving these implants like door to door, like you were talking about. Like it's not easy to sell into surgeons that are not using your tools every day. So I did that for a year and eventually transitioned into finance. But yeah, that was my journey in the medical device. But I made it a year. I think like maybe this is old school thinking. It probably is outdated, but I still respect it. Like give something a shot for a year, you know, unless you absolutely hate it and you just know like this is not for me, give something a shot for a year. Cause then you usually feel like you went through all 4 seasons and you can confidently say, okay, I'm ready for the next chapter.
That's yeah, try something for a year. I think that's been like my biggest selling point whenever we try to hire someone. I'm like, take a chance. Because like everyone's like, you know, risk adverse. But I think if you try anything, just like new food, and you don't like it, I'm fine with it. You can't just say I don't like to do something. But it's very interesting, I think, going from your background from like the medical device sales side to the finance side. But you've been on both sides like me now.
Yeah. And on the hiring side, we'll throw one more thing in. One thing that I found with engineers is it's hard to hire, and sometimes it's even harder to fire, right? Because it just doesn't feel good. Like when you got to fire somebody, it's almost like it's your responsibility. Like either it's not just on them, like it's on you as the leader. Maybe you weren't clear, maybe they were lazy, but one thing that we institute is like, it's almost like we don't call it probation, but it's like, hey, let's try this for 2 months, right? So we give them a salary for 2 months. And then at the end of the 2 months, we kind of have this post-mortem just to like check in, see how they're doing. If they're not meeting expectations, it's like a clean, easy goodbye. Yeah. And if they are, they stay on the team. And I always like to say, after 2 months, just ask yourself this question. Knowing everything that I know about this person and working together with them every day for the last 2 months, would I hire them again?
Yeah.
And if you can't unequivocally say like, yes, then you might need to make a change.
For sure. And I think that's one of the biggest things I also learned from my friend. Every time I had a tough decision to make, or I was like, I don't know, like sit on things. It's all about speed. So we just break things. We're just like, we're going to move forward. Let's make a quick decision. He's like, everything that's a two-way door, make it. So take your time to hire, but fire fast. Make sure you know who you're working with. But if it's a two-way door and it's not something that's going to be one way, just make a decision, move forward, and do that. And that's been one of the things that I take with me in every call, decision, everything that I do. I was like, is this a two-way door? And if it's yes, it's make a decision and go. Because I think the biggest thing to kill any deal or momentum in company, even with people, is taking too long to make a decision. And that's something that's really hard. When you're building the company, everything feels it's a bigger decision. But even with people, I think I usually use gut feeling. But when I'm looking to someone's not a great fit for the company and I really just don't think they should be here, is like you said, would I hire this person again? And usually that's your biggest answer.
Well, you are destined for greatness, young lady. From a surgeon to a venture-backed founder, partnering with your sister to co-found this business. This is exciting. I'm excited to watch your journey. And yeah, if you ever need any introductions on the West Coast with doctors, I know a bunch of them. I was in that profession, like we talked about, for a year. And yeah, I'll be happy to help.
I appreciate it. I love what you guys are building, getting kind of the word out and all of this. And it's really been great talking to you. I am excited to catch up with you and tell you where we are, what we're doing. And I'm excited for this one to come out too.
I love it. Nice to meet you, Ashley. Nice talking.
All right. Thanks so much, Kevin. Bye.
Okay, bye. Thanks for listening to Founder Uncovered. If you found this conversation helpful, please follow the show notes so you don't miss out on next episodes. We also have a newsletter where we profile early stage founders sharing tactical advice you can use right now. You can find the link in the show notes. One conversation can change everything. I'll see you next time. Perkins Coie is a leading international law firm known for providing high-value strategic solutions. The emerging companies and venture capital team counsels startups and the investors who back them, supporting clients from formation to exit. In the past 3 years, clients have raised more than $23 billion, with a B, in private markets between pre-seed and growth stages. Perkins Coie combines tailored counsel with sector experience. So when it's time to accelerate, whether for the next financing round, a strategic deal, or even going public, your team is ready. To learn more, visit perkinscoie.com.